Hello everyone, we are back with some new videos. In this new series we're going to look at some IoT applications, so the Internet of Things, and in a couple of these videos as we guide yourselves through them we're going to start with more simple applications. Can be relevant to kind of home applications, kind of smart home type stuff, and bring us into that IoT sphere. And then we're going to try and push that a little bit forward and look at some more industrial IoT examples. So even the IIoT, the Industrial Internet of Things examples. So there'll be a couple of series of videos that will push us into that direction and explore some of these useful tools that are out there, both for industry and both for kind of home automation as well. Now we're starting today with a video on the IoT Cloud, the Arduino IoT Cloud. It's a lovely platform that's been developed by Arduino that gives us a couple of things. Now, really, first thing to do is create an account. There's a couple of different account plans. We have a free account, of course, brilliant. And we also have even the entry-level account for $2 £2 a month is pretty good. One thing to note is we get two free things, which we'll talk about. Okay, we've got unlimited dashboards, some certain amount of storage for our files, and then data retention, but we only get 25 per day compilations of compiling our code and downloading it into our controller, whether it's Arduino or an ESP2 or ESP32, whatever it may be. So it's just important to keep that in mind. But we're going to soldier on with the free account. You will create an account with Arduino, and what it gives you is it gives access to a couple of these things here. And really what we're looking at is the Arduino IoT Cloud platform, which will allow us to create a kind of IoT device and visualize our data in a dashboard, which would be really interesting, and it stores some data for us. And we'll also look at the web editor, which basically, instead of having the Arduino IDE application installed locally on your computer, we can actually run it through the web application. So that's really cool and it's really interesting. But in this series of videos, we'll look at having both really. We'll look at applications that are installed locally on the computer, and then we'll look at applications installed on the cloud and see how they interact. Okay, so we're gonna get started. Essentially what I want to do is I want to create an IoT device and I want to visualize some data from some sensors. So I want to push some data onto the cloud that I can basically access from anywhere. And what's really good about this application as well is we have a phone app that we can again sign in with the same account, and you can visualize or you can see your dashboard on the phone as well. So that's really cool. Okay, so what have I got? What device have I got? Well, what I'm going to show you is I have a BME 280 sensor, and it does pressure, humidity, temperature. It also does altitude in there. Okay, so there's 4 metrics that I can measure from this sensor. A really nice piece of kit. There's a couple of different types of these BME air quality sensors. Let me just pause that for a second. And what's really good about this is, well, we have 2 communication bus lines that we can use. We can use an SPI communication. We can solder these pins on. Or if you have the stemma kind of sensor cables, you can connect that to the I2C bus, which is a bit of an easier communication to use, and that's what I'm going to use in this video. So we don't need to solder the pins or use those pins. I'm going to use the connector, connect it straight into our controller, and develop our code from there. So the controller that I'm using is an ESP32. Okay, so this is compatible with Arduino, but the great thing about these ESP32s is, okay, they're extremely cheap. We get some general purpose I/O, we've analog, digital, all that good sort of good stuff. We've our SPI communications, we've I2C communication, but we also got Wi-Fi enabled and Bluetooth enabled chips. So that allows us to do some wireless communication, which brings us into this IoT sphere without any need for additional hardware or any additional modules. So in some Arduinos, okay, you have Wi-Fi built in as well, but some you don't, and you have to get additional components. So at least this is all built in. So the wiring for this is going to be very straightforward. When you do the I2C bus, all you need is a 3 to 5 volt connection. You need a ground connection, and you also need to find the SDA and the SCL pins. So that's your clock pins and your data pins, and that will allow you to communicate along the I2C bus. Okay. So that's great. So once you have that set up and wired, we can hook our device into the computer, and we can go ahead and start looking at the IoT Cloud application. Okay. So we know that our sensor can measure 4 metrics. Okay, temperature, pressure, humidity, and altitude. I'm just going to, for the sake of this video, I'm going to develop just or visualize 2 metrics. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a thing. This is going to be our Internet of Thing. Okay, so we're creating our IoT device. So with the free account, I think we can do 2 things, but within that thing, we can look at a couple of metrics. Okay, so we'll just give that a minute to boot up and create one for me. Shouldn't take too long. Okay, and we're in. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a title. I'm going to call this ESP32 IoT. Okay, and it allows us, it creates a nice little kind of wizard to help guide us through the setups. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, well, we're going to add in our variables, and these are the metrics that we want to visualize or display on our dashboard. Okay, so the first one's going to be temperature. It's we've a couple of options here. It's not Boolean, so it's not just on or off. It's not a string, it's not data, like characters. It's floating point. Okay, it's going to have a decimal point in it, or can have it. I'm going to make it read only. We'll do it on change, and we'll keep the threshold similarly. So it's created a variable first, and we're going to do the exact same for humidity. Okay, and again we'll set that as a floating point, and again we'll do it read only, and we'll add that variable. Okay, so that's nicely done. Now the next thing then you'll want to do is you'll want to click select device. Okay, and here we're going to add in our new device. So if you have an Arduino, you can go ahead and select that one, see what compatible devices are available. But we've also got some third-party devices. ESP32 is available, and the one we are looking for is an ESP32 development module, and let me just see where that is. I think it's towards the bottom. I might have went past it already. So we're looking for ESP32, the development module. Apologies, I've probably gone past it here 100 times. There we are. So ESP32 development module, continue. And we'll give it a name. Okay. Now, when this pops up, you will get your IoT device and a secret key. Okay. Now, the key thing to do is to save this information. Okay. Because this will allow, this is your API key, which really allows your device to communicate with this software platform. Okay. Once you finish this window, you'll not have access to this information anymore. So you'd have to delete your device and add it in again, go through these steps to really get a new secret key. So both things you should save and keep it in a safe place because you'll need it later. Okay. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to save that into a notepad. We know we've got device ID, and we're going to have secret key, which is basically our API key that we'll need for later. Okay, so I'm going to copy that and paste that in, and copy this and paste it in. Okay, and you wouldn't want to give this to anyone. I know I have this on a video here, but I will not be using it too much. I'm just going to use it on the desktop or Arduino, and we can save. Okay, and then we can confirm, yes, I've saved those details, and continue. Okay, so now we've got a device added in. We've got some variables that we want to visualize. And the last thing to do is to set up your network. Okay, this is your Wi-Fi that you want to communicate along. Now, you might use your hotspot from your phone, you might use the Wi-Fi in your house, whatever it may be, but you'll need to put in your Wi-Fi name, the password, your Wi-Fi password, and then that's your secret key from the Arduino. Okay, so that'll be this part here that you will add in there. Now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add in my own Wi-Fi details, and I'll put the video back on. Okay, so I've added those details in, and now my network is set up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the actual code that we're going to install onto our ESP32, onto our controller. And we can actually just go in here into the sketch, and this is a web compiler that is embedded within the IoT Cloud platform. Now you also have the web editor here, and both of these are linked because you can actually go into the editor from here. Now when we look at this, it's already added in some data for us. Okay, so that's already added in here for us already, and it's important we keep some of the code that's added in here. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add in our own code. Also note the following variables are automatically generated and updated. So there's humidity and temperature, and these were what we set up earlier.